Cena ingrata me trae rendido desde el momento en que te conocí. Distintas flores he conocido, pero ninguna que te iguale a ti. En este mundo ya nadie sobra, no ha de faltar quien me sepa querer. Y la de buenas que yo soy hombre, no desgraciado por una mujer. Perdí mi tierra, perdí mi honra, perdí mis padres y todo perdí. Tan consentido que yo me hallaba, cena de ingrata por seguirte a ti. Soy marinero de puerto en puerto, he navegado en un buque de vapor. Andaba en busca de mi Zenaida, desembarcado para Nueva York. Ya me despido de mi morena, ya me despido, yo no sé por qué. Ay, si algún día de mí te acuerdas, mas nunca digas que yo te rogué. Cena ingrata, ya me despido, porque mañana me voy de aquí. Si en algún día de mí te acuerdas, mas nunca digas que quedó por mí.
My name is James Bryant. I am a former union member of Service Employees International Union Local 400, 790, and now 1021.
But what motivated you to become a union activist?
I was 23 years old, and my first job was working as a transit police, and we just didn't have any rights. And so my activism as a kid and growing up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, becoming a Black Student Union president in junior high school as well as high school, because it's when it got established back in the 60s. So I was always, just an activist. I was pushed into desegregation and in 1965, and so they closed down all our schools in our neighborhood and sent us out to schools that taught me how to fight for the kids that were with us. When we got on a bus and we went to a foreign neighborhood, and we were met by people who didn't want to accept why we were going to their nice, clean schools. So we had to fight. And it was 40 of us. We caught a bus from the downtown Ann Arbor area to the outskirts of Ann Arbor, and we were met by crowds of people who, asked us to go home, called us out of our names and said, go home. And we were so taken, because we were told that we were going to a place where we were going to get better education and we were going to have better opportunities. And I remember clearly getting off that bus and picket signs in front of me, and I said, wow, what's this? I thought I was coming to a better place. And so probably after about 20 days of the kids I was with, fighting kids, who we think their parents had basically said, those kids shouldn't be here. The principal came to me and he said, Jim, what can we do to stop these daily fights? And I said, Mr. Carpenter, you need to have a Motown Review talent show. And he looked at me and he said, Motown Review talent show? I said, well, why don't we just do a talent show? We set it up. We did a talent show. Different kids did different things. And the kids that got on the bus with me, we did Motown. We came in as the Temptations, as Marvin Gaye, as the Four Tops. And from that day on, life changed. And believe it or not, it was integration that inspired all of that. And it made me become a master negotiator. When we left out of there, people began to realize that, those kids that came to your schools, there's nothing wrong with them. You just have to talk with them. I was a natural for, dealing with people, and I was pressed into that situation because I was a bigger kid. I've been this big probably since I was 13.
My view is that the labor movement hasn't been the most enlightened group on racial issues and on undeclared wars. But I think the labor movement is changing for the better because of people like you, I think, James. So what's your perception of the changes that have taken place?
First of all, I'm a disciple of Afield Randolph.
Mm-hmm.
And Afield Randolph believed in, trying to help people of color help themselves. And it said, you not only need to be educated, but you need to have a job. You need to have opportunities to have a home. You need to have opportunities to take care of your family. And more than all, you need to be organized. If you're not organized, you're not going to win. And so the day we shut down City College for 4 days was, one of the heights of my career. Let me say this. What we weren't was we weren't disrespected anymore. That's what we weren't. And our members to the day are strong. But what it took was it took this whole Local 790 to support us. And that's where I met my current president, Roxanne Sanchez, who came over and said, we have to be part of this. She was one of the leaders, for the BART union. And she came over and she said, James, this is something we have to be part of. Roxanne is special. Roxanne's special is that she can be tough, but she can be gentle. She's not going to yell at you unless you make her yell at you. She's not going to strike at you unless you make her strike at you. Because she is very bright. She thinks things through in a way that probably no president previously in this union's history ever actually did. And that is one of the major reasons why, someone like myself, supports her. Roxanne will never stop fighting. But it'll be like, if you remember the Ali punch to Sonny Liston, you won't see it coming, but you'll know you're knocked out. And that's my friend Roxanne Sanchez. What is a leader? A leader is not just someone who says they're the leader. A leader is someone that follows, that has followings, and that's how Roxanne Sanchez has built, her legacy. She's had followings from membership for years and years. And that is because her qualities of fairness, making sure that everyone has been heard before she has to make a decision. And she will make a decision. It's okay to do a strike. But it's not the strike. It's what do you do after the strike? You know, how do you come together, you know, after? Have you destroyed everything, or have you created something? I'll be honest with you. We were on different sides at some points, but the respect never left each other, never at any time. And I can pick up the phone today and say, President Sanchez, and she'll respond and say, Mr. Bryant, how are you? And I appreciate that. And, you know, I respect and love my president, Roxanne Sanchez, for those qualities. Roxanne and I have a history together that is very special. Being that we both come out of transportation, being that we both understand each other from that perspective, and neither one of us have ever been disrespectful to each other. If Roxanne called me and says, James, I need you there, I'll be there. If I call Roxanne and say, Roxanne, I need your support, Roxanne will be there. This is more than a friendship. This is a lifetime commitment that we both serve for being part of this union and understanding the respect that we have for each other. And if we were to go to war with anybody, we'd bring each other.
Hi, my name is Maria Guillen, and I'm a activist with SEIU 1021. Been a union member for 27 years, and served in an officer position with Local 790. I was the San Francisco Vice President for almost 2 terms, and also served on the San Francisco Labor Council.
How did you become a unionist?
Actually, I took a job with the city in 1989, and previously I had been out in the nonprofit sector, and I didn't belong to a union back then, but coming to the city, I immediately signed up as a member of, at the time, Legacy Local 790, SEIU 790. And so I worked a couple of years, learning my job and really feeling very proud of the work that my particular unit was doing. And that was a senior information and referral unit. But in, I think it was early 90s, so just a couple of years after I got to the city, we were in a city budget crisis. And the mayor at the time was Frank Jordan. And Frank Jordan, in his wisdom, thought that the best thing to do would be to contract out this model service that we were providing.
In the labor movement, you and I both have met a lot of good, interesting, very smart, and colorful people. How did you happen to meet Roxanne Sanchez?
It came at a time when I was asked to consider stepping up and running for office, right? And back then it was Legacy Local 790. And so there were a group of us that were going to convene over in Oakland. We were going to cross the Bay Bridge and have a meeting of the minds and see what we could do in terms of coming up with a slate to run for office. And I had never met Roxanne before, and I offered to drive a few of us over. So as we're crossing the bridge, all of a sudden I noticed that there was some smoke coming out of my front of the car. I guess that's where the engine is or whatever. I had no idea about cars, but I knew that something was not right. Well, we were able to get over to our Oak Street office in Oakland, and as soon as I got there, Roxanne was amongst the people that were saying, "What's going on? What's going on with your car?" And she immediately asked me to pop the hood, and she went in and she diagnosed the problem right away. And apparently, as somebody was putting in oil, they forgot to put the cap back on to the oil tank. And so she goes, oh, no. She goes, we got to take care of this. And I said, well, she says, don't worry, come on. She goes, come on, I'll take you. I'll drive you to find a replacement, right? And I said, are you sure? I mean, we had this important meeting. She goes, no, that can wait. We can take care of this. And I said, okay. So I went with her, and she kind of like just took charge and wanted to help me. So we had a really good opportunity to kind of just get to know each other, and I just was just so impressed, right? I was like, one, that she was so apt and skilled on a lot of practical things that I had not a clue of, but also that she was extremely sisterly and had so much camaraderie about her.
Yeah, how many union leaders would have that skill, and how many would do that first rather than start an important meeting?
I mean, because after all, the role the position she was going to be going after was the president of the local, right? Oh, that kind of brought a tear to my eye. I'm not sure why, but I was touched.
Yeah.
I was obviously very touched. So anybody that I can immediately have that connection with, it's a good thing. And she was very quick to embrace the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Because for a long time, we've faced our own issues internally here at the local regarding racism or discrimination and bias. And so again, she is the kind of leader that will bring forward and lead on these issues, but again, with the hope of bringing the ranks along, right? And not to try to discourage people from participating or to be excluded.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you aware that the large meeting hall here, where we'll have the awards dinner next Friday night,
Right.
The SEIU provides that to each week to the Justice for Mario Woods Coalition, and buys pizza
Yes.
for up to 140 people.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed by that, and
Well, thank you.
that's the kind of thing that good unions do. I mean, providing a meeting place and paying for the pizza, and that's when unions do that. That tells me that there's a social conscience there.
Well, yeah, and she's said it herself. For us to be successful, we have to go beyond just the bargaining table. We have to go out into the community. We have to be a part of that community, right? And building community. It's not just about our own bread and butter issues. I think she really was hoping that I would spend time in this interview really promoting the cause, right? Because that's what she's all about. And so I'm just gonna shift from that a little bit and give her due. But
my name is Elisa Messer. I'm an English teacher at City College of San Francisco, and my role in AFT 2121 is as political director of the local. I'm the past president of the local as well.
When did you start teaching?
I started teaching in the mid-90s when I went to graduate school. That's actually when I got to sign my first union card. I got involved in union activism when I was teaching part-time at Cabrillo College down in Santa Cruz, and started coming to state meetings with the CFT and getting more and more involved. I was a part-timer, and when I came on as a part-time faculty member, I got involved in union leadership here at AFT 2121 too. And that's actually where I first met Tim Killikelly. He was on the executive
He
board.
told me the day that he's played a part in registering 200,000 students,
That does
voter
not
registration.
That does not surprise me at all.
And you and Tim both were president during the most serious crises this college has faced.
I think that we see our unionism as one piece of a much larger picture about, including education, right? We're education people, we're union people, and I think we see those as hugely connected to the greater society and to building a better society.
In terms of racial and economic justice, how would you rate, how do you perceive Tim?
Everybody in AFT 2121, and particularly Tim, want to see more just society. We've taken some actions around Black Lives Matter and in support, for instance, of Alex Nieto, who was a student at City College of San Francisco. And so I give him high ratings in those regards.
I'm John Whitehead, I'm a retired part-time instructor in the field of economics here at City College of San Francisco. As a full-timer, I taught courses in economic statistics, microeconomics, macroeconomics, and minority economics.
What influenced you to become a teacher, John?
I would probably say my experiences as a student at several inner city schools in Oakland during the 1950s and 60s. Inner city schools are extremely underfunded and therefore very ineffective in teaching the 3 R's. Another problem is that inner city schools have a very difficult time attracting good teachers. All these things kind of influenced my decision or motivated my early interest to want to become a teacher in Oakland. And as things would turn out right after college, I began teaching at Castlemont High School in East Oakland, and did so for 6 years before being hired by City College. I have known Tim to be a very effective and relentless fighter for better working conditions and wages for CCSF faculty and staff.
Have you and Tim collaborated on projects?
Yes, we've collaborated actually on several projects. There are 2 main projects that immediately come to mind. One involved stopping our then chancellor from splitting off economics from our social science department and wanting to place it under the auspices of the business department. Tim and other members of our department, including myself, successfully argued that that economics is primarily a field under social sciences and not an inferior or secondary discipline under business. Social sciences is much more diversity orientated. The topics covered in social sciences tend to be much broader, and they allow for intellectual endeavors across the ideological spectrum. Whereas business is very narrowly focused, and that would not work out very well with people, does not work out very well with people in economics, because we want to teach labor economics, we might want to teach gay economics, we want to teach African American economics, we want to teach political economy and things like that. And then we might also want to discuss how workers are exploited in a typical business environment, and that wouldn't work well in a business department. There's another project that we did together, and that involved developing and executing a seminar a seminar on globalization that was geared towards increasing CCSF faculty awareness of the impact of globalization on racial minorities and women. So those were definitely two important projects that Tim and I pursued. One of your old colleagues, that was one of our chief negotiators for our local, while you were president, Peter DeGroot once told me that globalization is really just modern imperialism.
Yeah. Would you describe Tim as an intellectual of the people?
Absolutely.
One of my favorite quotes was by Vincent van Gogh, the artist. He said, "Every great artist must have humanity." I believe that every great leader, especially a political leader, must have humanity.
That humanity especially came out when my mother passed away. He was there for me from the very beginning, giving me support calling me at night, hoping that was okay, coming out to the funeral, going to the after, what the heck you call those things?
The wake.
The wake, he was there right there at the wake, him and Mark Kitchell, and after I came back, they knew I was weak, and so they were right there supporting me all the way. And that's just his humanism coming out.
How do you perceive him as the leader of the union during these two crises, the accreditation crisis and the bargaining crisis? Because you know that's been a real problem with negotiations.
He has given us some really positive leadership in our struggle to stop ACCJC's illegal attempt to take away our accreditation and ultimately to destroy our college as an institution of higher learning with a significant labor force. And with some of the things he's done demonstrates to me that he's just really been on top of things. He's very effective. So much so that he's been part of the whole attempt to get ACCJC removed from the state. I see his mission as being far from being over. I see Tim as having several more years as an advocate for labor and social justice here at City College. And I would hope that at some point that labor locally would consider him as a candidate for some elected office. Mm-hmm. And I think they might start looking at Tim that way because he's a good revolutionary politician. He's a good politician of the interests of labor.
Arise, ye prisoners of starvation. Arise, ye wretched of the earth. For justice under condemnation, a better world's in birth. No more traditions claim shall bind us, our mighty slaves, no more in all. The earth shall rise on new foundations. We have been not, we shall be all. 'Tis the final conflict. Let each stand in their place. The international working class shall be the human race. 'Tis the final conflict.